go. Go to the woods. So for us, we started grazing sheep when my wife and I moved to Wellspring. And that was all going great until 2016 when we had like a historic drought, one of the driest years recorded. And our wonderful grazing plan just went out the window because there was no forage after the first rotation of animals. And so we scratched our heads and thought, well, literally 20% of the land we're stewarding is overgrown, scrubby brush. And what we did is just fence them in those spaces and observe them. And we saw that they were very eager to browse, to explore, to find their way in this woody-based ecosystem. And they sustained themselves for over 40 days on woody browse that year. And at the end of the year, our harvest, weights of our lambs were really no different than any other year, which was a good indicator that they'd been able to maintain their growth. And so that was a light bulb where we said, well, we're really lucky that somebody let all that stuff grow. But we better take care of it and manage it so that the next time that drought comes, we have that to feed the animals. So that's kind of what led us to Silvopasture. On the most basic level, Silvopasture is just integrating grazing livestock, trees, and forages, and thinking about all three of those components and how through our actions we maintain the health and the abundance of all those things. So we don't overgraze, we don't stress out our animals, we don't stress out our trees. Silva comes from Greek. Silviculture is management of forests, so trees, and pasture, of course, is grazing, managing landscape for grazing livestock. But we have to remember that the practice of integrating livestock in the landscape is absolutely ancient and comes from many indigenous traditions around the world. What we tend to see is that each landscape expresses silvopasture a little bit differently. So the key pieces are we have the livestock, we have forages we're managing, we have trees, but the combination of those things, the number of those things, the density of those things, the timing is really site-specific, context-specific, and we can learn from a lot of different examples, but ultimately, wherever we're doing silvopasture, we have to really pay attention to the unique conditions and adapt these ideas to those conditions. Grasses that grow under a tree canopy in a drought tend to persist longer. Animals tend to do much better under the shady conditions where they can find, respite and a chance to digest, and they're not just out stressed in the sun all day. If we have flooded conditions, if we have heavy excess rainfall, our pastures may not be growing well, but the trees are still there. So I think in the bigger picture, we're increasing our toolbox when we bring silvopasture into our grazing systems, because we're creating ecosystems that are inherently more resilient to change. And they're also just diversifying the quantity and the quality and the source of food for the animals that are in those systems. With tree fodder, which would be mostly where we're focused on feeding the leaf material of trees, what's exciting is different species have sort of different concentrations of macronutrients and micronutrients, different levels of protein. I mean, it's the same as your forages on the ground, but they tend to be more stable in droughts, in flooding conditions. Often they can extend your season on either end. Often they can provide good nutrition in the heat of the summer. And so they just further diversify the diet of a really healthy pasture system. Hey, sheep. Come on. what's remarkable is that all the woody plants and trees, whether it's the driest year on record or the wettest year on record, they all kind of do the same thing. They all survive, they grow, they are very stable ecosystems. So if we're thinking about a changing climate, if we bring trees and the inspirations and concepts of like forests into our grazing, we're increasing that ability to be resilient no matter what sort of comes at us.